we're going to talk about basic hitch maintenance and what you can do to help prevent excessive wear.
Welcome to Two Camping Gurus. If you like camping in the great outdoors, you are in the right place. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also check out our website, twocampinggurus.com, and stick around to the end of this video so we can show you how you can get your free ebook and pre-trip checklist to make sure you and your rig are ready for the road. Now, let's get into today's content.
All right, so there's really not a lot needed for proper maintenance of your hitch to help prevent wear, but there are a couple things. One, this is a metal to metal contact, and it's an often forgotten about item to make sure it has a little bit of lubricant. Now, a couple things I caution you is you don't want to gob it on so much that it starts collecting dirt, and especially if you're in between uses. I would actually clean most of it off before you hook back up. If there's any dirt on this, grime or mainly like grit because of grease that you put on it from previous use, you want to get that cleaned off, because then you're just sticking grind, basically sandpaper up inside there. Yeah, it has grease, but if there's all kinds of grit stuck to it, then that's just going to grind away at it up inside there. So make sure the hitch is clean. Now you can see a residue of rust, but this has not been hooked up for a bit. And then another big thing that gets overlooked, and this is a crank tongue jack. I know many of you have electric tongue jacks. We sold our travel trailer. We don't have a travel trailer anymore. So this is my utility trailer. But I can demonstrate the same thing on this as you would on a travel trailer for RVing and camping. Basically, there is a hole in here that you want to oil once in a while. That's the first thing you want to do. If this starts getting excessively difficult to crank, which right now it's not, but if it did, you want to put a little bit of oil in there. You don't want to fill it, you don't want to put a ton, but you do want to put some. So you're just putting a little bit of oil in there, and then the next time you go up and down with this thing, that's going to get on the threads and work pretty good. And then the other thing you want to do is you want to lubricate the ball. Now, there's all kinds of different greases out there that people talk about. I just use a pretty standard grease that would go into a grease gun. It's a multi-service grease, so it's nothing extravagant. Now, I know there's some greases out there that are less likely to pick up grit, and those would be the the best option. But in my case, I got a bunch of this. It works fine. Where I'm careful is I will clean this off if I've unhooked and I'm not going to be hooking up for a while. When I get ready to hook back up, I'll make sure this is good and clean before I stick any new grease on it and put it up inside there, because it's just gonna, you're just gonna grind away. You're just adding dirt up inside there. So you just want to, make sure it's underneath here. Basically what's happening in here, there's a couple things. One, you got the ball area receiver that the ball is going to set up inside. So that's metal to metal in there, and it's just basically wearing as you're pulling on this part here and internally here. And then when you lock the latch, there's kind of like there's different styles, but kind of like a lock that goes underneath like this and prevents it from coming back up off of that. And that is wearing quite a bit down here. So those are two main points. Now it does hit in the front here a little bit too, but those are the two biggest things. So you get a decent amount on this. It's not super necessary to get some up in here, but I always have a little extra on my hands from doing this. So I'll make sure it's clean up inside there first, and then I'll put a little bit up there. And I can feel that little plate. Mine is an actual plate that locks underneath like this. And when it's underneath there, then that prevents, and it pulls it forward too, so it kind of is grabbing on both sides of the ball here, so it cannot come up off there. So I'll put a little bit of extra up inside there to make sure we're gonna have, good coverage. And that's really all there is to it. Now, if you're in a situation where this stuff is sticking, this is an item I would use, WD-40, everybody knows about it, or some sort of liquid wrench or rust, treatment to loosen up nuts and bolts. However, don't use it as your lubricant. It's not a good lubricant. It's good for breaking loose rust and things like that, but I wouldn't spray it on here as my lubricant. I wouldn't spray it in here. It's not going to be nearly as good. So this is not a good option for lubricating these things. It's a good option to breaking stuff loose that's rusty, then go back and properly lubricate it with grease and oil. So these things will give you a lifetime of use with minimal problems. Now I do have a stabilizing ball on this side too that I don't use, but if I were to, I would lubricate that as well. Now, one thing not to forget is when you remove your hitch and are going to be putting it back, it's a good idea to clean up the receiver part of it and the hitch itself where it slides in here, and make sure it's not gummed up or going to cause any problems to remove it. If these are left in place for an extended amount of time, they will rust themselves right together and be near impossible to get out. We did have a small Ford Ranger that had one in it that we actually hooked a chain around a huge tree and was put pressure on the truck, and even jerked it a little bit a couple times to see if it would break loose, as well as heating it and pounding on it, and it took a long time to get that thing out. So it's not a good idea to leave these in long term if you're not going to use it. But when you do put it back in for the season, do the same thing. Clean it up and put a small amount of grease on there, probably even a little bit less than what's on this, just enough so there's a little coating so it helps protect against rust and binding these up, because you want this to be able to slide out. Now you don't necessarily want it loose, but you want to make sure it's not frozen there, so when you need to get it out, you can. So keep that in mind as well. If you do these few things, you will have a lot less headaches when it comes time to deal with your hitch, whether you're hooking up, taking it apart, or just towing the vehicle and you're trying to prevent extra wear on your tongue and ball for your travel trailer. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. Don't forget to click on that link to the free ebook and pre-trip checklist so you can make sure you have the tools you need to make sure you and your rig are ready to hit the road. We'll see you in the next video.